today we'll be taking a look at Xerath, a perfect example of mage being bullied at mid lane, then finding a shelter as support on bot lane, and ultimately becoming bullied there. Let's start. Okay, so for runes, you are going to be a poking, bullying mage, just like, for example, Vel'Koz, which has the same case of problems. Anyways, you will be taking Arcane Comet for that powerful poke, Manifold Band, because as Xerath you do have a bit less mana problems than other champions, but at least early game you still want that 250 extra mana. Then you will be taking Transcendence, mainly because Absolute Focus really depends on enemy champions not being able to hit you by a single spell or two, so it is quite unreliable. And Transcendence is a guarantee, and with that level 11 buff, it is really powerful. And lastly, it's either Scorch or Gathering Storm. Obviously, depends on which time you want to shine as Xerath. Gathering Storm is obviously better for later stages. I think that bonus damage from Scorch can put Xerath against champions who are really strong early game and give him that bit of fighting chance because he deals that extra damage every 10 seconds, which is mainly going to be used at level 1 and possibly 2, when you will basically unallow them to jump at you because they will be too low. And obviously it is extra damage which every mage wants. For secondary runes, again, it's pretty simple. You usually want to go for Biscuit Delivery and Cosmic Insight. First off, for sustain in line, you can spam your abilities much more freely. And Cosmic Insight obviously grants you ability, lets you spam your Q and W more often, with a bonus that you can use your Zonias more often and you will be getting Zonias every game. Only option is that if you really want to uh, get a bit more usefulness, I would say, you can possibly in a really free line change Cosmic Insight for Magical Footwear, so you can save 300 gold, or Perfect Timing. But most of the time I would recommend Cosmic Insight just so you can use your abilities more often, but both of these are possible if you want to save some money. And for smaller runes, we got 2 adaptive forces, and defense will be armor or magic resist, depending on matchup. That is going to be everything for runes. I will see you in game with the rest of the video. First off, for summoner spells, Xerath has a nice variety. And it's first off, if you want to be killing stuff, you go for Ignite. If you want to protect your team from assassins, you go for Exhaust, which you will probably, at least from my experience, running a lot of time, because when you are playing Xerath, almost everything is an assassin. And lastly, if you just want to be selfish and be in the lane just so you can steal farm and kills, you can go for Barrier so you can survive and your ADC is there somewhere. Anyways, that's gonna be pretty much it. And now for items. First, obviously, you will want to take spell thieves because with your long range you can trigger it really easily. And obviously, 2 health pots. There's nothing to discuss about that. After that, you want to rush your mythic, which is going to be Luden's Tempest. You want to get Lost Chapter as soon as possible. Then possibly if you yourself need to be dodging skill shots, you can go for boots, but pretty much this is going to be your starting setup, and then you want to finish Ludens as soon as possible. After that, if you have just enough money to buy your sorcerers, you can go ahead and finish those so you can actually chase someone. And then it comes the great time to get your Zonias. First off, obviously, Seeker's Armguard, get some of that farm when your ADC is not there, and increase your armor. Uh, or if you know that they do have those assassins, you can go for support, which depends. Either you are playing against poke or engage. Engage, yeah. Everybody here knows what I'm talking about, right? Anyways, you want to get one of these two first, possibly both of them. And then you want to rush your Zonias, because Zonias are one of the most powerful items in the game. Anyways, after you got your beautiful two items and boots, it depends mostly on what team comp are you playing against. If they have a lot of healing, you can go ahead and get Mortal Nomicon as your third item, or you can go ahead and buy Horizon Focus, which you will be using a lot because first off, it does not have cooldown, meaning that you can trigger it on many champions, and most of your abilities will be hitting over that 700 range. So that is also a really nice thing. Obviously, you have only one immobilizer, but that does not really affect it since you want to play from afar. So Horizon Focus is a really great item. You can also exchange it for Void Staff if you have more AP in your team, otherwise you won't probably need it. And lastly, we got everyone's favorite Rabandon, which is the best support item ever. And with Xerath, you can dish out so much damage that they can do a lot. Obviously, one last thing is Banshee's Veil, which is mostly going to be used if they have something like Nautilus or Blitzcrank, which obviously you can save your life with this. So standard build, because there's a lot of healing in this season, you want to go Morelmicon and then Rabandon, and you can clearly see the damage is the one of the best in the game. But at what cost? That's what we're gonna have a look at now. First, we got Xerath's passive, which makes him one of the more powerful laners, because every 12 seconds, if he hits anything, it is actually anything apart from towers, I believe. Uh, he is going to refund some mana. So it depends on champions. The mana is doubled, meaning that if I just throw out few of these and then auto attack this baby, I get almost 400 mana back. What you can do with this is pretty much poke all the time, because first of you, as you saw in the runes, you will have your biscuits, you have your spell thief, and that all means that you will have a lot of mana in the game, in the lane, and can pretty much poke as much as you want. You obviously will run out eventually, but if enemy team has something like a Lux which pokes too, you will come out on top with your mana. And then that's everything for passive. Your Q is a really long range skill shot, which basically you start charging, and after some time you can fire this long beam of energy with high damage. Uh, the damage stays same even if you use it just to tap it at the start, or if you use it with the longest. Only thing that's increasing is range. Another thing that is nice to know is that when you hold the ability and you don't cast it, you get half of the mana back. This is Xerath's most costly ability, and you will be getting it at second level because early on it has some damage, but you got your W, which, if hit right, deals more damage at every stage of the game than your Q, and applies a slow. So first off, you fire in an area, also long range. You can fire this beam of energy from the sky, which will damage and slow everything inside. The slow is 25% for 2.5 seconds, which just keep it in mind. If you do hit anything in the center, as you can see the small circle in the center, oh my goodness, what is it with me? Uh, you will first of deal much more damage and also apply slow. The slow is increased every with every level in the ability. The maximum slow is increased, meaning that at what is it, level 13, you have 80% slow for 2.5 seconds. So this is what you want to get at level 1. It also costs 10 less mana than your Q, which makes it a bit more suitable. But yeah, that's about your W. You will be, as I said, getting this on level 1 and then maxing it second, because only difference between these two is that Q can be used at longer ranges, but more importantly has much lower cooldown, meaning that you can spam it a bit more frequently than your W, which, when you think of it, is more powerful ability. And lastly, we got Xerath's E, which is again skill shot. First enemy hit will be stunned up to 2 seconds depending on the range. So if I shoot this dummy right here point blank, it's something about 0.3 seconds. 0.5 is minimum. And obviously at max range, the stun is 2 seconds. And that is pretty much it. This ability is his cheapest. It is a great ability to either get someone off or to save yourself when you are being chased. And it leads into most of Xerath's combos. And lastly, we got Xerath's ultimate, which is a long, again, long range skill shot. It works kind of like an artillery. Huh. Pretty much when you use it, Xerath charges up, get increased range where he can see, and every time you press R, he will shoot out these missiles. Uh, it goes from 3 missiles on first level of the ability up to 5 missiles at third level. It is really powerful. The damage of missiles, as you can see, is 500 for one. So you can often use this to support your teammates who are fighting, for example, in other lane, because if you have a look, the range, by the way, is always the same, just to know. If you are in bot lane and your teammates get in trouble in mid lane, you need to help your jungler get a gank off successfully. You just gotta come in here and just start shooting. And it's somewhere from a Drake where you are effective and can kill anything that stands. And that is pretty much it. You just have to be careful to not use it when you are in a fight. You, it can work when you know that you are on high health and rest of your abilities cannot be used. But otherwise, it's just better to use to finish someone who is running off or to support someone who is fighting and you can't reach them. And with that, we can get to Xerath's most basic combo, which is basically hitting your E, your W, and then Q. This is really easy. You get your proc of your Arcane Comet, Ludens Tempest with your E, and then because they are stunned, you got easy follow up with both of these. Other option you can do in lane when they are standing behind minions. You can just try to hit your W, does not matter even if you don't hit the center, they will still be slowed. And then charge up your Q and hit them because they are slowed for 2.5 seconds, which is just about right for you to charge it up. And then your ultimate, as I was saying, does not really go into combos unless you want to do something really brave like E-ing and then quickly going on with those skill shots. It may work in late game because obviously Xerath scales into late game. He is an artillery mage, but this is about only thing that could possibly work. Anyways, back to the line. As I was saying, Xerath you is really good at poking because of his long range and ability to get his mana back. This also means that you are really good against champions who want to go in one go. So for example, if you're playing against something like Leona, which obviously every engaged support ever is dangerous for Xerath because his best way of escape is just pressing the other direction and trying to run away, which does not work. But if you can keep your range, which with both of these you should, unless they want to trade a flash to kill you, you should be fine. Another thing to keep in mind is that obviously if enemies have some form of sustain, like for example Soraka heals, obviously they are real dangerous, you want to go for ignite and then just poke them as much as you can and hope that they won't be able to sustain that much. Xerath obviously has nice cooldowns even in the early game, at least on his Q, meaning that you should be able to get them really low, and then with one hit of your E, your ADC should be able to follow up. With it, what does he play best with? First off, if you get something like Ezreal, who also is a great poking champion, you pretty much have a really safe lane because if they decide to engage on you, Ezreal can run away. You got your stun, meaning that unless they commit everything to you, jungle comes, you should be safe. And if you are poking properly, they should be quite low and you can turn on them. And lastly, you don't really need to roam as much as Xerath, unless you are playing with something like a Vayne and you get some early kills, then you kind of want her to get fat. But that is about it. For roaming, you obviously can roam. I would pretty much recommend staying with your ADC, getting the experience with them, because you don't want to fall behind as Xerath. And then if there is a need, you can just go ahead, go a bit into the river and storm enemies with your ultimate. Last thing, in team fights, you obviously don't have any way of supporting apart from usually holding your E unless someone engages on you. That is pretty much how you will be team fighting. You either use your E at the start to get a pick, or you just hold it unless you have a 90% chance to hitting it and protecting someone who is being engaged on. You usually use this when, for example, Talon jumps on your ADC. Combined with your exhaust, you should pretty much destroy him right away with also your damage. And rest of the time you will just be charging up your Qs and shooting out your Ws to pretty much just kill someone who wants to have a nice game. You can actually support very well like this, because how can someone endanger your ADC when they are not alive? And that's pretty much it. One last thing is that with those giant damages you have, you can try to steal Dragon, possibly. If you combine your W with your Q, it pretty much is more than Smite of most junglers. So you can try to steal Dragon. You can also try to quick go and in quick success launch your artillery missiles, which obviously go pretty much as long as you're pressing them fast, it deals damage really fast. So you can do that, but I would recommend mostly in the late game, because early on they don't have that much damage. Obviously, it's a lot, but it's not that much and that fast to uh, outsmite somebody. But your WQ is really good for that. And that is pretty much going to be everything. You also, one more important thing, you have to be really careful with your vision. You obviously can't go anywhere alone unless you steal those skills and get ahead and enemy against enemy laners, because you will die really fast. But you need to maintain vision so you can use your ultimate properly even if someone is escaping. That means that if your ADC is willing to go ahead and get Oracle Lens, you can buy your Blue Ward and get vision on enemy and then run them down with your ultimate, pretty much. And that is going to be everything for the video. I hope you enjoyed. Battery out.